I am joined by Nick Burns, a former ambassador to Greece, and also the professor of diplomacy at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. So, Ambassador, great to see you here. It seems like we're so far away from any of the turmoil going on in Greece. So the latest headlines, right? Alexis Tsipras says that, I believe this is what he said, I hope that the Greeks vote no to these measures. Why?
He thinks he's in a negotiation. He thinks the negotiation has not ended. And I think the calculation on the part of Syriza, his political party, is if the Greek people vote no, Tsipras can go back, the Prime Minister, to Angela Merkel and to the creditors and say, I've got the people behind me, you need to listen to us, you need to reschedule our debt. And that strategy, in my view, is not going to work because the Europeans have already decided what the game is.
But hang on, I thought he already had the people behind him, even before going into these latest round of talks, right?
Well, the Greeks have had a horrific 5 years. Their economy is contracted by 25%. They have 50% youth unemployment. So the Greek people want an end to this,
right,
and they want relief, and they want some economic hope. And Tsipras said he would get that for him. But he was, of course, I think he overplayed his hand. He felt in this diplomatic game of chicken over the last 4 or 5 months that he could outfox the Europeans. They held firm, and he's really left with this vote and trying to get back to the negotiating table next week in a stronger position.
Okay, so likelihood this referendum will result in a what vote?
Hard to say, but it looks like the polls are trending towards a yes vote, that more Greeks kind of understand right now. If they vote no, it might mean that they're out of the Eurozone. And I think most Greeks are unhappy with the European Union. They're unhappy with the terms of the creditors, but they don't want to leave the Eurozone, much less the European Union. Greece is one of the poorest countries in the EU, so it's a net beneficiary of billions of euro in assistance and grants over the last 10 or 15 years.
Well, yeah, I mean, they want to be a part of something. They don't want to be sort of left out on their own, which is what would happen. So, okay, so which begs the question. If they vote no, Nick, then the chance of them leaving the Eurozone is what?
If they vote no, I think the probability rises.
Rises to what?
Well, it's hard to say.
80, 90, 100%?
I think it's well over 50%, well over 50%.
Okay.
That if they vote no, that the negotiations then would fail, any ensuing negotiations, because the Europeans won't give in. And the Greek government will then have to decide, do we leave the Eurozone because they can't pay their creditors, or do we go back on our knees and accept this deal? I can't see the Syriza party doing that. It's a hard left party.
It is. You know, they'd be going back on so much of what they promised the Greek voters. Right. Okay, if they vote yes, is Angela Merkel much happier?
I think she's happier, and I think, frankly, it boxes in the Greek government. If the Greek people vote yes, they're voting yes to we should accept the bailout plan that the European Union has offered.
We want to stay in the euro.
Exactly right.
And how do you think Angela Merkel has played her hand?
I think she's been skillful. I think she's been consistent. I think the Greeks have been given chance after chance to try to climb out of this hole that they're in, that they've dug for themselves. She has clearly signaled that she wants Greece to stay in the Eurozone and in the European Union. I think there's some others, perhaps Wolfgang Schäuble, the finance minister, has been more hard-nosed about this, but I think she's been a good leader in bringing the European Central Bank, the IMF, and the EU together in a common position.
Even if something gets cobbled together, is the damage done already?
Oh, I think the damage is done to the Greek economy. This is a catastrophe for Greece. What has happened to them in the last 5 years is akin to what happened to the United States in the Great Depression. And young people are leaving because they don't see a future. The best Greek businesses are going offshore. It's a catastrophe for them. It's very tragic. It didn't have to happen. I think part of the problem is this is a young government. Most of them have never been in power before. It's hard left. And I think they felt they could leverage and intimidate the European Union, and it didn't work.
Well, young, inexperienced, would you call them?
Very inexperienced. None of the current ministers, including the Prime Minister, had ever held a senior position in government.
Right.
And because they're so ideologically bound, many of them are former anarchists, former communists. They're outside the mainstream. They've done battle with the European Union from the very beginning. In their first week in office, they alienated the German government and the American government. So they just didn't play this in a sophisticated or effective way.
So should the U.S. be doing anything more than what they are?
I think President Obama has to be careful. We're obviously not part of the European Union.
Right.
Merkel is, of course, a very close partner of the United States. We don't want to get in her way. But the U.S. has clearly signaled that it believes that the situation would be better off if the Greeks stayed in the Eurozone, and that would mean accepting the bailout proposal.
We had Mary Gabelli, Lee Cooperman, two big investing minds on a few days ago. Both of them said they're not concerned about what's going on in Greece economically, right? I mean, it's such a minuscule part of the European economy and by that matter, of the global economy. So if that's the case, then it kind of begs the question, why are we so locked on this drama? Or is it really that small of an impact?
And we'll be discussing this here in Aspen tomorrow. Larry Summers and I are going to be interviewed on the Greek crisis. I'm not an economist, but I'd say the risk here is the following. The EU has built into its future projections the Greeks leaving. They think they can contain it. But do we really know that? Markets don't always operate in a rational way, and so I think there's a small possibility that this could be disruptive globally, but it seems that the stock markets have rebounded.
Yeah.
And I think that Greece is not just under 3% of all the GDP of the European Union, so it's a very small part of it. But since it's virgin territory, no one's ever left the Eurozone before. There hasn't been this kind of a crisis. I think it's that element of uncertainty that has people worried.
It does have people worried. So what should European leaders do at this point? Should they have some contingency plans right now? I mean, let's get real, right?
Well, they've said that they do have contingency plans. I think what they've got to do is stick to their guns and hold to the position that they're willing to help Greece, but on terms that are rational and sensible. And so I think continuing to be calm, not try to drive the Greeks out, but give the Greeks an opportunity to come back. If there's a yes vote this Sunday, the Greek government has to come back and accept the plan offered by the creditors.
And before we go, is there an opportunity here for some rival countries? We've heard Putin make some comments about Russia, about Russia coming to the aid. We don't know how seriously to take that.
I don't take it seriously.
But China or others, is this going to shift the power dynamics around the world or not?
I don't think so. The Chinese are too sophisticated to try to harm the European Union, and the Russians don't have the economic power to do it. They have their own economic problems at home. This is theater created by the Greek government. They wanted to feint toward Moscow to make the European Union think they had a different alternative. They don't. Not with Russia's ailing economy.
A Greek drama in action, right?
It sure is.
Live and in real
century.
time. Exactly. All right, Ambassador, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to
Pleasure.
see you. Former Ambassador Nick Burns.